Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be going over getting your own models ready for import into Modus. I've already imported my own table model here. I'm just going to be going through the steps to make sure the material resolution comes across correctly, as well as separating this mesh into three different um, material locations. So I'll be able to apply different materials to different locations. Like I said, I've already imported my model here. And the first thing I'm going to concern myself with is our texture density or our texture scale. To do this, I'm going to go to Add Mesh Plane. I'm going to look at my dimensions here. I'm going to want this to be 1 foot, 1 foot by 1 foot. I go to Objects, Apply All Transformations. Make sure this is scaled correctly. I'm going to get it just so it's peeking on top of our table here. And to set up a texture density, I'm going to come to our UV mode at the top. So UV editing. I'll press A to make sure I've got my entire plane selected. Plane selected. I'm going to add a new texture. I'll just call it textile. I'll do 2048. 2048 by 2048. And I'm going to do a UV grid. Okay. That's going to be my textile density. And if I come back over to my layout mode and I shade, now when I apply this material, I choose my base color here as an image texture. And I've already got, there's textile. There we go. I'm able to see the textile density on this plane, and I'm going to want the table to match that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that same material. Looks like things are already scaled perfectly on this table. But what you might see, if I go back to UV editing, yep, so this one has already been UV'd and scaled. If I needed to change any of this, you might see something come across as a much smaller scale here. Usually they'll try to fit it inside of this starting square. And if I were to look at the layout here, you'd be able to see that the checker size is much larger. I'm not going to go into the details of how to UV map your own models. But if you've already got it mapped, you can just scale out this entire thing until it roughly matches here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but getting it in the correct ballpark will make sure that the wood grains, don't look way too big or way too small, and you're able to see like all the tiling happen. So that looks close enough. So I've matched my textile density. I'll double check and make sure that everything is good on all of the surfaces of the model. Looks like this one was UV mapped nicely already for us. Occasionally there'll be pieces where you have to come in and edit one face at a time. You'll be able to select this and be able to scale it individually if you needed to. But seeing as everything here looks good, I'm going to go back to my layout mode. We'll just drag this guy out of the way. I'll hide him for now. Now to separate this into different areas for materials, I'm going to use this material slot editor. Since I've already got one material here, I'm actually going to remove it. Now that I know my textile density is set up on my UV mapping. And I'll go ahead and add a new material. So this project already had a couple materials floating around there. So I'm starting at 4. You'll start at 0, 0. if you haven't added materials in your project yet. So I'm going to want a total of 3 materials on my object. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3 materials and hit new materials for them. I'm going to color code them so it's easy for me to see what is selected where. I've got a blue, a purple, and a red. And so currently this blue material is applying to the entire table. So if I were to import this into Modus, I would have 1 material slot that would affect the entire table, and then I'd have these 2 that would do nothing. To change this, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'll go into X-ray mode so I can select these leg pieces here. That looks good to me. I'm going to assign them this purple color. Now I can see that I've got my purple selected. So now I've got 2 materials ready to go. I'm going to stay in X-ray mode here. I'm going to select these shoe pieces. I'm going to assign these to my 3rd material. If I leave my X-ray mode, I can see that I've got 3 materials ready to go. I might need to come through and manually select these faces to get, if I want them to be the same material as this piece down here. And assign it to this red material. Looks like it's having a little trouble updating here. Okay. So one other thing to keep a lookout for is if you load in a model and you're seeing some parts are transparent, that will have to do with your face orientation. You can go to object mode again. And in one of our drop downs, we've got face orientation. We're going to want to be seeing all blue. So I can see that I've got some red on the undersides here on my faces. So if I were to have a glass floor and look up, any of these red pieces would be transparent. So I'd be seeing through it, through to the table. So I've selected all my red faces. I'm going to come over to face and then, oh, maybe it's mesh, mesh, normals, flip. And now I can see that they've turned blue. Everything looks good here. So when I import this model, I won't be able to see through the bottom if I put this on a glass surface. Or if I had the table flipped upside down for some reason, everything will be behaving correctly. I can double check that under my mesh, I've got 3 materials selected. And if I need to see where those are going to, I can shade and I can see that I've got these faces going as 1 material, these as a 2nd material, and this blue section as a 3rd. I'll go to File, Export, FBX. I'm going to want to export this into my custom models folder here that I've got set up already. I'll call this table 2, since I've already got 1 table in there. And a couple settings to keep in mind over here is I've already got a Modus set up, but I'm going to go through everything one at a time here. So path mode, copy. I'm going to make sure to tick this little box here to make sure that these material slots get copied in as part of this file. To include, I'm going to include visible objects since I've hidden my plane here and I don't want that included. I just want everything that I can see in my viewport included in the export. Next, I just need my mesh data. I'm not using any camera, lamp, or animation data. Transforms, this is my scale here. I'm going to keep it at 1.0. In terms of axes here, I'm going to have X be forward and Z be up since that's the way I've designed my model here. And I will apply my transforms before exporting in case I have anything that's not applied. Geometry, I usually keep this the same. My normal's only smoothing. Armature, again, we're not using any of this data. So you don't have to worry about this at all. And then bake animation. There's no animation to bake, but I just click it off just anyway. Once I'm ready to export, I'll export this. Then I'm going to boot up a Modus session here. And external 3D model. Select custom models, table 2. I can see that I've imported. There's table2.fbx. And if I work on my materials here, I can have one material at the top. That was our blue material that we had. Our second material, there it is. And our third material, let's go with some chrome. So that's a quick guide on what you have to do in Blender to get your models coming across in Modus correctly.